My name is Folake Soetan, and I'm the CEO of Ikeja Electric. Ikeja Electric is the largest power distribution company in Sub-Saharan Africa. And I'm very passionate about women and supporting women that want to grow. In my personal and professional journey, the theme Given to Gain has really made a difference to how I lead and how I've grown over time. I was fortunate to know and embrace the idea along the way in my career. Although in the early years of my career, I thought success was something you built quietly by yourself. I felt it was important you worked hard, you kept your head down, and that's the way you can climb. And that was the model I saw, and I followed it as an early career professional. But the older I got, the more I noticed that leaders who truly lasted were not the ones who held everything tightly. They were the ones who gave things away freely. They gave their knowledge, they gave their time, they gave their access, and somehow they always seem to have more of it, not less. And that observation changed me. I started to understand that giving is not a sacrifice, it's how growth compounds. When you pour into people around you, they rise. And when they rise, they bring the whole organization with them. And as such, giving to gain is not just a beautiful idea for Women's Month. For me, it's the most practical leadership philosophy and belief that I know and I practice. Hence, I have grown, people around me have grown, and women continue to grow around me. In terms of what have I given, in terms of mentorship, opportunities of guidance, I've always given that. Mentorship is the one I would say that stands out most for me. And I want to be specific about what I mean when I say mentorship, because we use the word too loosely sometimes. I am not referring to a quick lunch or a motivational conversation. I'm talking about sitting with someone, understanding where they are, and being genuinely invested in where they are going. I've done that with several young professionals over the years. What I did not expect was how much that taught me, and that helped me grow as well as an individual. The questions forced me to examine things I had long stopped questioning, and the challenges they faced made me revisit some decisions I thought I'd already figured out as an individual or even as a leader. There's a young woman I worked closely with a few years ago. She's now in a senior leadership position. I gave her my time, I gave her counsel, I guided her, and she was very, very honest and candid with me in terms of giving feedback for how I was guiding her. She gave me clarity of thinking that shaped one of the most important decisions I've had to make as a leader. I think that exchange was not transactional, it was mutual growth. I think that is the most honest thing I can say about giving in leadership. You rarely know in advance what you will receive, but you almost always receive something, whether it is a new way of thinking, whether it's just getting inspiration from the person that you have taught or poured into, and just seeing them flourish. That in itself is satisfaction. And so really giving to gain, you giving of yourself, is actually enriching, it's fulfilling for you, and it just makes you feel like you made a difference. I would always give, because there is always benefit. You always see the benefit of giving to gain. Executive leadership fields, like you said, in Nigeria, is still largely male dominated. I am working in a major male dominated space. And so I understand how important it is for me to use my position to support, mentor, and advocate for women who are obviously stepping into similar leadership roles. I still walk into rooms where I am the only woman at the table. And that is not a complaint. It's just an observation and a reminder that the work is not finished. So I have become very deliberate and very intentional. When I look at succession plans, I ask direct questions about where the women are, not as a formality, but because if the pipeline does not reflect the talent that exists in the country, then something in the system is broken, and that means it needs to be fixed. I do not accept the first list that comes to me if that list tells an incomplete story. Beyond that, I have learned the difference between mentoring and sponsorship. Mentoring is advising someone on what to do, guiding them. Sponsoring, on the other hand, is standing behind someone with your name and your reputation when they're not in the room to speak for themselves. Both of those matter, but sponsorship is rare. I would say rarer, and is often what moves the needle for women who are ready, I would say, but are not very visible. I also try to show up in spaces where young women can see that this is possible. On my LinkedIn page, I'm very intentional and I'm very deliberate about sharing practical leadership experiences, my vulnerabilities, and even on my journey as a leader. I do that intentionally because I want women to see, especially younger women, that I'm just like them. I have my frailties, I have my excesses, I have my failures. And so me sharing those practical things on LinkedIn, for example, is me also showing a younger woman what's possible in a male-dominated space. Visibility is not vanity, it is actually evidence. And people need evidence before they believe something is real or something is possible. And that's why I do this. I remember being in some meetings early in my career where I would make a point and the room would move on as if no one heard me. Then a male colleague would say the same exact thing, maybe not even as articulate as I was, literally minutes later, and suddenly it was worth a discussion. Now, if you're a woman in a professional environment, you probably know exactly what that moment feels like if you're listening to me. That quiet, specific frustration of being heard, but not listened to. There were also moments when my qualifications were questioned, in ways that had nothing to do with the value I was adding, or what I had done, or what I had achieved, or what I knew. And I had a choice each time. I could think and make myself easier for the room to accept, or I could show up more prepared, precise, and grounded than anyone expected. I chose the second option. It is not to prove something to them, but because I knew my own value and I was not going to let someone else's assumption become my ceiling. What carried me through those seasons was just the advice and counsel of other women who had walked that path. Women who had been in those same rooms before me and said, I know what that is. And this is how I kept going. I think that sort of community is not a soft thing, but a survival kit or tool, I would say, that every single woman must have. It is why this month and conversations like this are genuinely critical and important, and they matter. And I want to thank Polo for arranging and organizing this. If you're a young woman that is obviously aspiring to be in a leadership position today, what would I say is important, in terms of lifting others, even as they rise? I would say this: do not wait until you have arrived before you start lifting. I repeat, do not wait and say until you have arrived before you start lifting. Because if you are waiting for that moment, you will wait forever. There is no finish line where you suddenly become qualified to invest in someone else. You can start today. You must start today exactly where you are, because everybody has something, some value they can add to another individual, not to talk of being a woman who you can feel their pulse. Recommend someone for an opportunity even when it costs you nothing and benefits you nothing. Share what you know without holding back the best parts. Celebrate another woman's success without conditions. They may seem small, but they are not. For young women, hear this: lifting others do not make you smaller. It does not take anything away from you. What it does, on the contrary, is that it builds something that outlasts any title you will ever hold. Because legacy is not only defined by what you achieve, but who you brought along with you and what they went on to do because you chose to open the door for them and give them an opportunity. Therefore, I say to you, rise. Rise as high and as fast as you can, but rise with your arms wide open. This is the kind of leadership that changes things and makes a difference. And that is the legacy I want to have. That is the legacy I'm building for myself. And it's evidence in the women, the young women that are growing around me, the young women that are working along with me, even the older women that are ahead of me.